City of Stevens Point Public Protection Committee meeting, recorded April 13, 2020.
I will yield to the mayor to go over the ground rules one more time.
Okay, so it looks like everybody's doing a great job. If you are not speaking, please have your phone or audio on mute. And if you are calling in on a phone, please do not put us on hold, as many of them have music or something that plays on hold, and we don't want to hear your music, basically. As I said, our city clerk, Carlin Krautkramer, is busy with elections. I will be filling in as doing her duties in regards to roll calls and taking the motions and things like that. Alderperson Kneebone, of course, if you have any questions regarding anything on your agenda, I will do my best to answer them. That's it.
All right. Given that, we'll call the April 13th, 2020 Public Protection Committee meeting to order at 6:25. We'll start with the license list. I'm sorry. We'll start with
our chair. I'm going to do a roll call, please. And I see
right.
Alderperson Kneebone here. Alderperson Dalton is right there. Alderperson Fischler is here. Alderperson Nabel is here. Alderperson Dugan, are you here? Alderperson Dugan?
No, she was going to try to do it by phone.
Yeah, I see there's only two phone numbers here. I don't recognize either one of them, but I haven't committed those numbers to memory either. I'll ask one more time. Alderperson Dugan, if you're on the phone, you can unmute. Actually, I'll unmute both of those lines. If Alderperson Dugan can hear me, please say you're present.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can now. Okay.
Oh, good.
So, Alderperson, give me the last two digits of your phone number, please.
Mine, 50.
I got you. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. So, Alderperson, I am going to just see if I could rename you here. And there. Okay, so Alderperson Dugan is present. You do have a quorum, Madam Chairperson, so you may continue.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. Let's start with the license list. If there's no objection, I'd like to take as a group the new operators list, the taxi drivers list. That would be, I've got his name right here, Robert Spatz and Elric Traver, and then the change of agent list for the R store on Highway 10 from Jean Trakel to Amber Zabricki. And then we'll deal with the picnic licenses separately if there's no objection. Assistant Chief Zenner, do you have any comments on any of those folks?
No, I don't.
Thank you. Any comments from the committee? Other council members?
I would like to make a move that we accept the license list that was given for the new operators for taxi drivers.
Okay, we have a motion by Alder Nabel to approve those. Was that
Second.
Alder Fischler?
Yep, I second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. On the license list, we've got Create Portage County for their 48-hour film fest on April 24th to the 26th. Then we've got the Levitt Amp series on a whole variety of dates from June through August 6th. We've got another one for Create Portage County for their Spectral Micro Cinema on October 1st and December 3rd. We've also got Create Portage County for Idea Music on November 6th. And then one my dad would have loved, the Wisconsin League of Muskie Anglers will have their sign-up meeting on May 5th. I wonder, with the limitations we have right now in April, Mayor or Attorney Beveridge, would we have any issues approving these, or do we approve them conditions being as they are, or?
So I would chime in, and the attorney unmuted. I will cede the floor to him.
These relate to licensing and regulatory schemes that are independent from any of the COVID-19 safety measures that are put in place. So there's no clash between those two different schemes. So I think we can just proceed with these the way that we normally would.
Okay, given that, any comments from commissioners, committee members?
Yes, I would like to ask then, yes, I understand we'd be okaying their approval to get a permit for license for their beer or their picnic. But are those going to be legal at the point? I would hope that doesn't mean that it tells people, yes, we should hold these events. By giving that permission, that concerns me because it's almost giving an opposite, at least on the ones that are like for May 5th, for example, and ones that are coming up very pretty soon, which it would be in April even, 26th.
Oh,
I would, if the chair would allow it, just make a quick comment that all of these events are after the governor's current order is set to expire. So as of today, all of these things would be allowed if circumstances stay the same. If they don't, they would still be required to follow any orders that come down between now and then. So if the governor happens to extend it, for example, till the end of the month or till Christmas, or the federal government comes in, this does not supersede that. Doesn't give them permission to violate any other orders that might come down the pipe.
Thank you for that clarification.
I did notice, I forgot to mention, Central Wisconsin Children's Museum, their happy hour at the museum, they're rescheduling from March 27th to April 24th as well. So that was my concern, that these might encourage people to do something they probably shouldn't. If these are beyond the expiration date, then I don't see any reason why we couldn't go forward. So I would be looking for a motion to approve. Committee members, other council members, comments?
I had a quick comment, I guess. So just
Alder-
with my understanding, just from my understanding, if for whatever reason the dates were extended by the governor, they would just easily come back to us and we could reschedule these later, or would they need to reapply?
So it's my understanding that if they change the date, they would very likely need to get that on an agenda to be approved for whatever date that happens to be. So hypothetically, let's say someone scheduled an event for April 30th and the governor extends it to May 1st. Whatever that event is, you just contact the clerk's office and we would have to reconsider it again as a council.
Understood. Thank you. With that in mind, I would move to approve these as is.
Okay, so we have a motion by Alder Fischler to approve. Do I have a second?
I second.
Is that Alder Dalton?
Yes.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any comments one last time from the public? Okay, those in favor vote by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. That takes us to two beekeeping permits from Jennifer Matthews McComb and Patrick Belson. Should we take them together or discuss each one separately? I'm fine with taking them together if the committee is.
Fine with them going together.
Together is fine.
Yep, that's fine with me too.
Any comments from committee members before we get rolling? Alder Fischler?
No questions here, thank you.
Alder Nabel?
None. I think I would maybe just ask that Alder Kneebone, you're the expert on this, and from what you looked at the plans, if you're feeling that's the right amount of space, I am great. It's a good thing to see, and I love the idea. But I'm looking at you as the expert on the spacing. Sorry.
I did notice that they had those things that forced them up. So from what I can see, they look like they meet all the requirements that we put in there. I don't foresee an issue with either one of the requests. Any comments from any of the other alders? Concerns, questions? From the public? Okay, seeing none, I'd look for a motion to approve those permits.
I move to approve the 2 beekeeper permits.
I
And that would be
second.
Alder Dalton,
I'm sorry.
and a second by,
I
Alder-
second.
Okay, go ahead.
that was Alder Fischler.
My dog is barking, sorry.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve the 2 beekeeper permits. All those in favor would vote by saying aye.
Hi.
Aye.
And opposed vote by saying no. Sounds like the ayes have it. Those permits are approved. Now we come to item number 3, the ordinance, chapter 21, building and premises maintenance and occupancy, proposed code revisions to sections 21.04 through 21.10. I know, Alder Nabel, that you had some concerns about this. I'll let you have the floor first.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Alder Kneebone. I do have some concerns. My first one is that making changes over Zoom is always much more difficult for the public to be more involved in. And because these are not crucial to be done right now, one of my points would be that we hold off on these so that the public does feel like they're involved and not just like it was shoved through while there was this time frame of less participation. Secondly, I have concerns about the change of some of the wording on who would be from building inspector to being code official, because I know that I feel that there needs to be a little more overseeing of when somebody's going to interpret something, because it does say about interpretation of the ordinance. And we've had problems with that in the past. And I don't want to see that be another issue. I'd prefer seeing it be that somebody that is a department head is making those decisions as a secondary to any of the code officials that there. We've had different code officials, and it could be many different ways to look at something that's written. And in the past, I've seen it. So I would prefer that we wait on this.
I'll chime in. I also think that this is too important an issue to try to do this on an iPad screen with multiple videos. I'd like people in the public to be able to give us their input without having to risk anybody's life to do that. I don't think there's anything that critical that we couldn't wait a month to have a little more time, and hopefully things might change then. We could have a little bit more public meeting. Alder Fischler, do you have an opinion?
I'm in agreement. I know in the last meeting, there were some members of the public that had concerns, and I think it is important to allow people some extra time to review these changes. And if we're doing them bit by bit, maybe just have, give the public an opportunity to take a look at them before voting on them.
Madam Chairman, Alder Dalton has had her hand raised for a little while too. I just haven't been able to chime in.
Sure, I was gonna call her next.
I just wanted to speak
Alder
to,
Dalton.
speak to first the substance of the proposal, and I have some questions or concerns about section 21.07, the changing of the 50% assessed value to the language describing it a building as public nuisance or unsafe, particularly because currently the public, you saying something, a building is a public nuisance, I think has been used very liberally right now as justification for property maintenance violations. And so I have serious concerns that if our code official is using that language to describe something and then the next step 30 days later is a potential raise order, that creates some pretty substantial issues for property owners and residents of the community. But I also agree with what has been articulated by the rest of us here. And I think that having this discussion, I know many property owners would like to speak to these changes, and I haven't even had a chance to reach out to the ones, to others that I know would definitely be interested. And I think this particular format is not conducive to greater public participation. So I'd like to move to table this to our next in-person meeting.
Alderperson, I would recommend that you use the word postpone rather than table.
Okay, I would like to postpone these ordinance changes until next in-person meeting.
I'd like to second that proposal.
Oh, Alder Nabel gets the second. Alder Dugan, have you, I don't see your phone number coming up, so I figure you haven't had anything to add, or?
I believe she's muted.
Oh, okay.
I just unmuted Alder Dugan. I don't know if she has the ability to do it on her phone. Alder Dugan, your microphone
Okay.
is live now.
I can't seem to get through.
Okay, now they can hear you.
Oh, really? You can hear me? Thank God.
Yes.
Well, I do have some concerns about this, but I agree with several others who would like to postpone it to a time when we can discuss it in more detail and let members of the public join us in the discussion.
I would suggest Alder Dugan and Nabel and Dalton sit down with Director Karnowski. I know he has absolutely nothing else on his plate right now. Picking up a couple days from now, some job interviews we're going to have. Let him know what the concerns are, and maybe some language changes that you think might be appropriate, and let's bring something back.
Yeah, that sounds good
when
to
we
me.
get more people involved. Comments from other alders? Anyone from the public that's braving the
Yes, can you hear me?
technology? Go ahead.
Hello?
Yep.
Go ahead.
This is
Go
Bob
ahead.
Weir, 727 2nd Street.
Go ahead.
I have big concerns regarding this, and I was at the meeting, I believe, back in October when you discussed it, I think last. There is a uniform dwelling standards or uniform dwelling code that's produced by the state of Wisconsin Office of the Safety and Professional Services. and that's SPS 321 on construction standards. Just looking through this document, there are numerous items that do not comport with what the requirements are that are put out by the state. I'll just touch real quickly on two of them and just to tell you that there's lots and lots more that has to be done to this thing if it's going to be enforceable, legal, and proper, and give property owners an idea of what they're required to have. If you look in the packet that I pulled off the internet, did not have page numbers on it, but by counting what I had on the screen, I had page 14 probably, which regarding handrails on stairways and platforms, porches, and so forth. Just as quick examples. And I'm looking at the page that begins at the top where it says said bathtub and shower may be, if you go to sub 6 or paren 6, on the second line, it says that stairs with 5 risers must have a handrail. If you go to the state's requirement, the state says you have to have a handrail for any stairway with 3 steps or 3 risers.
Yeah.
The distance between the balusters in the next line, it says 10 inches between balusters. The requirement is in the state for a sphere, 4 3/8 inches cannot pass between the 2 balusters. So we're way off there. It also says that you have to have a railing on a porch if it's 36 inches or 3 feet, actually, it says in the ordinance, above the adjoining property or the adjoining land. The requirement from the state is 24 inches. Also, it says that a banister or railing has to be between 30 and 36 inches. The state says 38 inches. So, you know, that's just one example. Another example, if you look toward the rear, where it talks about electrical services being required or precluding extension cords and so forth. That's, you know, the electrical requirements in this thing are way out of date. Keep in mind that this ordinance was written in 1980. It's 40 years old. There's no mention in here about CFI outlets having to be within, or any outlet being within 3 feet of a water producing fixture. It's just talking about generic stuff that used to be way back in, before I came to Stevens Point. The state has in their, excuse me, in their standards, they have SPF 321, or SPS rather. SPS 322 is energy conservation. 323 is HVAC. 324 is electrical. 325 is plumbing. And in the 10 years that I built houses for Habitat for Humanity, the electrical, the plumbing, and the HVAC, we contracted that out to professionals. I knew how to build a house, but I didn't know all the ins and outs of plumbing and heating and so forth and so on. And I don't believe that the neighborhood improvement coordinator has the training for all those trades either.
Bob, I'm going to interrupt you in the interest of time. We've allowed a fair amount of your expertise to be vetted here. It looks like the motion on the floor is going to be to postpone. Bob, could you put your additional comments in writing and we could get those to Director Karnowski for review?
Sure.
I would.
I could, you know, I could do I could do the entire ordinance. I'm retired.
Oh.
I have the ability. I have the ability to do it. I don't know whether I really want to spend the time. But
thanks, Bob.
you
know,
the entire thing. It's just like as an example with the zoning code. That's in theory been in revision for 7-8 years.
Yeah.
And that's not been done either. So rather than going out and you know, inspecting property, you know, I have no problem with neighborhood improvement. But when it comes to the ins and outs of construction, safety, and so forth, and, you know, there's no mention in here about smoke detectors.
Oh, Mr. Weir, again, I really appreciate all the things that you brought to mind. I can think of a good task for the new associate planner that Ryan is looking for. It'd be to make sure that our ordinances fall in line with the state. I noticed also that Alder Jennings has a question. So I'd encourage you to reach out to Director Karnowski, and I'd like to give Alder Jennings the floor at this point. Thank you very much for your comments. Much appreciated.
I'll get a hold of Ryan then.
Thank you.
All right.
I really appreciate Mr. Weir's comments, and following with that, I am just curious if Director Karnowski could clarify. I believe, is it correct that the state supersedes municipalities?
Yeah, I can address that. So a number of the changes that are proposed, and I would remind, as folks know, the February meeting, we gave it to you as a whole pie. The committee said, time out staff, take it back, give us a piece of the pie at once so that we can work through this. And we're not looking for any formal adoption. And, you know, I'm not opposed to postponing this again for another month if that's what the committee so chooses. But yeah, in general, with the Uniform Dwelling Code, that supersedes anything that we may have in our own ordinances and our own chapters. And in fact, we've been going through a complete rewrite over the last few years of the city's electrical code, our building code, our plumbing code, and our property maintenance code to make it more in line with the UDC. And so there are some things within the 6 sections in front of you tonight that aren't necessarily transferable through the UDC. You know, the question that Bob brought up regarding the electricity, the issue that we've been running into is in a lot of these older rentals that have been piecemealed together, some of the rooms are serviced not through standard electrical boxes, but through electrical cords that are connecting into other rooms. And so that would prevent them from being an occupiable room if they don't have standard electrical service, things of that nature. I know a couple alders have also brought up the concern about the change from building inspector to code official. How staff looked at it was the code official is more inclusive of the number of professionals that work within the community development department, meaning that there are portions of this code that are only going to be enforceable by our building inspector, our building official, Mr. Schneider. There are other parts of it that are going to be enforceable by Mark as our neighborhood improvement coordinator. But, you know, contrary to what some might believe, we don't operate in silos in community development. We do work together if there's concern or interpretation concerns. At the end of the day, the director does have the ultimate authority within pretty much all of our zoning and improvement codes, like Chapter 21, and how we're going to enforce them. I mean, we could change it to community development director or their designee if you really wanted to, but from my perspective, it really doesn't make a difference. That, you know, either that or code official. So yeah, I guess getting back to the original question, there are some UDC measures that do supersede this code, and we're trying to bring our existing codes up to meet those standards as they are currently written, with the exception of 21082, which actually kind of takes a step back in time to the 1970s when building or roof heights, ceiling heights were a little bit more lenient in occupiable space. And that's because a number of the homes within the city were built between 1950 and 1970. And so occupiable space has changed since we adopted the UDC in 1980. So that's the only thing that we're trying to become a little less stringent on is the occupiable room ceiling height. So that's kind of my 10 cents worth.
Thank you, Director. Any other questions from any of the alders or committee members? Okay, we have a motion on the floor to postpone till next month this discussion on revisions to ordinance chapter 21. All those in favor vote by saying aye.
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 Opposed, vote by saying no. Okay, the ayes have it, and the motion is approved. And we are adjourned at 6:56.
Videos of these meetings are available for viewing on the city's website, stevenspoint.com/videos.